Jai Hind and welcome to the Daily Current Affairs and MCQ series for the 15th of January. So let's get started. The first article that we are discussing is that regarding the extension of a line of credit by India to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, remember, is facing an economic crisis, and that is why the role of India also becomes significant. Why? Because certainly the Chinese, they are already into the picture. The Sri Lankans have already got some relief, some economic assistance from the Chinese, and that is why it is important that we try to also leverage, or we also try to help the Sri Lankans out and not just making them completely dependent upon the Chinese, right? So what becomes important from your prelims perspective is that the relations between India and Sri Lanka, and certainly the economic crisis which the Sri Lankans are facing right now. So as far as the Indians are concerned, so we have confirmed a $400 million currency swap with Sri Lanka, right? And certainly it is aimed at helping the Sri Lankans, which are right now facing an unprecedented economic crisis. So right, so this financial assistance, has been extended to Sri Lanka based upon a request which was made by Sri Lanka itself, and it includes lines of credit for importing essentials. That is how worse the situation is, right? And a currency swap to boost Sri Lanka's draining foreign exchange reserves. So that means that certainly the situation is very bad, and on top of that, Sri Lanka is already having negotiations with China as well, so that the Chinese can also help them. The Chinese have already helped them, but apart from that, they are seeking further assistance from China, right? So that is why is it important? Why the China angle is important here is that, look, already when you talk about Sri Lanka, already Sri Lanka has, it has leased out multiple of its assets, multiple of its territory to China already. So that is why China is already having, substantial control over much of the sovereign territory of Sri Lanka. And that certainly disturbs the peace and tranquility, I would say, in the Indian Ocean region, and certainly in very close vicinity of India. So in that scenario, if the Sri Lankans are further made to be dependent upon the Chinese, that is not a good thing, at least for Indian interests, and neither for the interests of independent Sri Lankans who believe already the Sri Lankan government has faced huge amount of protests from their own citizens against the Chinese investments, again the leasing of lands for years like 99 years to the Chinese, right? So from that perspective, this also becomes important, right? Let's take a question now, Hanji. Which of the following statements is or are correct with respect to the relations between India and Sri Lanka? First, as Sri Lanka is facing a severe dollar crunch, its central bank has requested a bailout from the International Monetary Fund. And second, India and Sri Lanka have recently signed a long pending agreement on jointly developing the strategically located Trincomalee oil tank farm along the northeastern coast of the island. So, what do you think are the correct statements here? This one and this one, only two, both one and two, neither one nor two. Yes, so I'll take a halt, or you can pause the video and then you can type the answers. Chaliye, great. So let's discuss the first statement. Look, when you talk about the first statement, that is, Sri Lanka is certainly it is facing a severe dollar crunch. But right now, their central bank and their, authorities, they have not requested. They have rather right now, for the time being, they have ruled out a bailout. Now, what exactly is a bailout from the International Monetary Fund? That the International Monetary Fund is going to provide a substantial amount of financial aid to the Sri Lankans on a conditional basis, so as to make them come out of the economic crisis which they are facing, right? But that is what has been for the time being ruled out by the Sri Lankan authorities, that they are right now, they are not contemplating, or they are not going for this bailout from the IMF, this route, right? So the first statement becomes incorrect. Then when you talk about the second statement, that is, India and Sri Lanka, they recently signed this long pending agreement on jointly developing the Trincomalee oil tank. That is absolutely true. This was pending between the two countries. The negotiations were on, but the both the countries were not able to reach a common point. So This is a good thing, that this is a good development between the relations as far as India and Sri Lanka are concerned, that we have able to conclude this. And right, so the second statement will be correct. So your answer becomes, the correct statement is only 2. Right, so the answer will be B. Okay, so for question number 1, answer becomes B. Right, so right now you can see that they have ruled out an IMF bailout and they are in talks with Beijing. Now this is where the trouble lies for the Sri Lankans themselves, and certainly for all the other countries in the area which are not very much interested that China gains further ground in Sri Lanka. Right, so this is going to, make Sri Lanka go deeper in as far as their dependence or their economic, dependence on China is concerned. Right, so that is the first aspect of it. Then this, request was also discussed during Chinese foreign minister's visit to Colombo. Now remember, why was the Chinese foreign minister in Colombo? Certainly to crack further deals, to further make inroads in Sri Lanka, and this Colombo port was also in news, right? So all that become important from your prelims perspective, from your mains perspective as well. We can very well expect, earlier also UPSC has asked such questions. Chaliye, great. So let's move to the next article now. That is the takeaways from the India State of Forest report that has been released. So concerning your prelims, what is important is that the environment and ecology aspect in the country, and what are the findings of the ISFR 2021. Right. So you need to be clear as to where there have been improvements, where there have been deteriorations regarding the change in the forest cover in the country, which states have performed well, which states have performed negatively or poorly, and not just with respect to UPSC, but also if you're preparing for any of the state civil services, then for your particular state, at least you should be aware, right? So this is the ISFR 2021 that we are talking about, which has found that across the country, forest and tree cover, it continues to increase. So that is certainly good, with an additional cover of 1540 square kilometers over the past 2 years, right? So that exactly is what the report has observed. Now, when you talk about the states that have been phenomenal or that have shown improvement, the highest improvement, then they are the southern states of Telangana, Andhra, and this state of Odisha, right? So these are the top 3 states as far as the highest increase in forest cover is concerned. Now, apart from that, bamboo forests have also shown an increase, right? So that is another thing that is covered by the report. Right, so let's discuss some of the other things through this infographic. Now here you can see that pictographically the gains and the losses both have been shown since 2019. Right, so as far as the gains are concerned, they are very clear. Andhra, Telangana, Odisha, Jharkhand, Karnataka. All these states are the ones which have shown gains, right? Then when losses are concerned, then certainly these are the states which have shown losses. Arunachal, Nagaland, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram. So that is a sad state of affairs, that these states have actually witnessed a decrease in their forest cover. Right. So this is the northeastern area which is shown in red. But here you also have, look, here in the North Indian part or the northwestern part or the North Indian part, you have just one state which has been depicted in red, because you see red, it depicts here the negative change. That is, this is, which state is this? Yes, type in the comment section which state is this alone, this sole state here in the northern part of India, in the northwestern part of India to be precise, that has shown or that has been marked in red color. This state I'm talking about, right? So mark in the comment section, and I'm moving to the question now. Okay, so which of the following statements are correct with respect to the recently released India State of the Forest Report 2021? First, it is an annually published assessment of India's forest and tree cover undertaken by the Forest Survey of India. Second, as per the latest report, India's total mangrove cover has shown an increase. And third, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Nagaland have all shown loss in forest covers. Yes, so what do you think should be the answer here? Quickly mark the answers in the comment section. See, this India State of the Forest report is actually very, very important. Why I am emphasizing so much? Because earlier also UPSC has asked straight away questions from the ISFR, right? So you need to be very thorough. You need to be very clear regarding the findings of this report. चलिए ठीक है. So let's move to the first statement here. See, when you talk about the ISFR, it is not published annually. It is published once in 2 years, right? Is it annually? Is it published annually? No, it is not. It is published once in 2 years, right? So the first statement becomes incorrect. Then the second statement, that as per the latest report, India's total mangrove cover has also shown an increase. Yes, that is true. Then the last statement you just witnessed, we saw through that map itself, which mapped the areas which have performed negatively. So the entire northeastern belt, we can say, except Assam was not mentioned, but all these states have shown a deterioration in their forest covers. So what will be the answer? 2 and 3, that is option B here, right? So for question number 2, your answer will be B, right? So this is published every 2 years. So be mindful of the fact that the Forest Survey of India under the MOEFCCC, that is the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, publishes it once in every 2 years, right? And the first survey, when was the first survey published? In 1987, and this 2021 is the 17th edition of the report, right? So this is the 17th edition. Chaliye. So moving forward. So this brings us to the article that talks about the leading ed tech companies in India, right? So certainly this is one sector that has witnessed growth, that has expanded, and what is important right here for your prelims perspective is that the new sectors in the economy, which is certainly the ed tech sector, the education technology sector, and the IMAI, the Internet and Mobile Association, which is in news with this article. So what exactly has happened is that, the leading companies which are operating in the education technology space, they have formed a consortium. What is this consortium? Basically, this consortium is nothing but, it is a group it is an organization collectively created by these all leading education technology companies, right? That is the IEC, that is India EdTech Consortium. So what exactly they are trying to do is that they are saying that through this consortium, what they will do is that they are going to adhere to a common code of conduct. What is this common code of conduct here now? This is basically going to be a framework, right? This is going to be a framework which is going to be critical for both the rights of the learners and for the rights of the companies, right? So it is going to be giving or extending some sort of protection, you can say, to both the learners who are the online learners on the platforms of these online edtech companies, right? And apart from that, the companies themselves, their rights are also being talked about in this particular framework. So what exactly is this framework? Let's take a look at. So look, it concerns basically, areas such as ethical sales practices, marketing communication, loans, refunds, fair and transparent functioning, grievance redressal, and all those things. So as to ensure, look, this is certainly, a pretty new sector in the country. We already, some of the education ventures, they were although operating online, but in that domain or in that space, after COVID came, right? COVID-19 pandemic के आने के बाद से what has happened is that certainly the online space across the sectors in the economy has increased, and that is certainly the case with the education sector as well. That you also, है ना, you also have been, you must not be viewing the online lectures maybe 2 years or 3 years before, prior to this. But right now that is a reality. So certainly there needs to be some sort of protection that here has to be provided, right? And that is why this consortium has been created. चलिए, let's take a question now. Yes. So consider the following statements vis-a-vis IEC, that is the India Ed Tech Consortium. That is, first, one of its stated objective is to ensure that every learner shall have access to quality and affordable education. Then second, a two-tier grievance redressal mechanism would be established by the IEC to ensure that business is conducted with transparency. Yes. So what do you think? These statements are correct or incorrect? Please make your answers. Please type your answers accordingly in the comment section. And it's a humble request that all of you ensure that you are typing your answers in the comment section, right? So I believe that from Monday we'll be able to conduct these classes from the you know from the in the live mode, but that certainly depends upon a host of factors. Chaliye, so let's discuss the first statement. Look, when we talk about the objectives, then certainly we discuss some of the objectives, है ना? जो भी हमने देखा कि उस framework का actually what it is trying to achieve, what all is contained in that framework. So one of those things is that every learner should be having access to quality and affordable education. Look, when you talk about the penetration which the education sector or the edtech sector is having, that penetration, that can be huge, because certainly wherever you are having a simple mobile internet penetration and a mobile gadget with a family, they can also access to it, right? The question is whether it is qualitative and whether it is made affordable, right? So that is one of the stated objectives of the consortium that they are trying to achieve. The second thing is that the grievance redressal mechanism would be a two-tier grievance redressal mechanism which is being sought to be established by the IEC, right? So that there are no unfair practices which are taken by certain businesses, because look, already there are players which have, you can say, created some sort of dominance in this particular edtech space. So with that, it is important that you also come up with some sort of mechanisms which are trying to promote transparency, which are trying to promote some sort of level playing field for all the players in the edtech space. Right. So for question number 3, what is the answer? Both 1 and 2 are correct. Right. That is, answer will be C. Right. So that is with respect to all these things. So this is also aligned with the government's recent advisory. Right. So this is also related with the recent advisory by the Government of India. So this you can read later in the PDF that will be provided to you, and this is the Ministry of Education concerning this particular move here by the edtech companies. Right, chaliye. So moving to the next article now, this again concerns US has denounced China's maritime claims, and the State Department has asked China to cease its unlawful and coercive activities in the South China Sea. Now, this is one such area that has been, in news constantly over the past decade, and Beijing's South China Sea claims gravely undermine rule of law, including UN clause, including all the other international conventions, the agreements which are adhered to by all the law-abiding countries who believe in the rule of law. But that is not the case with our neighbors, that is the China. So what exactly is important from a prelims perspective is that the South China Sea area, the disputes China is having with multiple countries, the permanent court of arbitration. Remember, China lost a suit here, right? So this is the most detailed case ever against Beijing's unlawful claims in the South China Sea that has been ever made by the United States, right? So the Biden administration, certainly it is, at least on paper, it is going strong against the Chinese, right? And it has been on both the counts, that is geographically also and historically also, that US has rejected the claims or the basis for China's vast and divisive map. Now see, what exactly they do is that they say what the Chinese, how the Chinese operate. Just to give you a glimpse of it, Chinese क्या करते हैं कि historically they'll say that this area was part of the ancient Chinese empire, right? And on that claim, on the basis of that false historical claim, which nobody knows exactly whether it existed or not in the first place, and certainly it did not exist, right? On that basis, they are going to say that now this geographical territory should be a part of the People's Republic of China, right? In the modern age. Because why? Because in the historical age also it was, in the ancient times, it was also a part of our empire. So that certainly, sounds nonsensical. If that is how you allow the countries to operate, then the entire world map would change, right? I believe that you will agree with me. Then coming to this particular article, the Bureau of Oceans and International Environmental Scientific Affairs of the US has said that China has no basis under international law or any international law for the claims that they have been making, and that is what has made them come into dispute with Philippines, with Vietnam, and many of the other Southeast Asian nations, right? So that is with respect to the South China Sea and the dispute. let's take a question now. Hanji. So which of the following are the bordering areas or states of the South China Sea? Because this is the area that is in news again. So People's Republic of China, Taiwan, Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore, Indonesia, and Brunei. So what should be the answer here as far as these countries are concerned, which are bordering the South China Sea? I'll just take a halt. Quickly mark your answers in the comment section. See, this is one area where in the previous years also UPSC has been interested. And certainly this has been repeatedly in news because of China's assertions, because of China's unsubstantiated claims. Okay, so I'll just take a halt. Yes. चलिए ठीक है, great. So look, when you take a look at the map here, this is the map that shows the South China Sea area, and you have all the countries. Certainly China is there, Taiwan is there, Philippines is there, then Malaysia is there, then you also have Indonesia, right? You also have here Vietnam, you also have Cambodia here, all these countries, Malaysia here, Singapore here. You're having all these countries which are in one or the other way bordering the South China Sea. So that is with respect to this particular article. So your answer becomes D, right? That is all of them are going to be a part of it, right? So for question number 4, answer becomes D. That is, all the countries that were mentioned there, they all are having, or they all are contiguous. They all share a commonality with the South China Sea, right? So type in the comment section, what is the 9 dash line? Yes, type in the comment section. Are you aware of the 9 dash line? If you are not, then get aware of it. That is one homework I want to give to you, the 9 dash line, right? Chaliye, great. So moving to the last question for the day, that is, which of the following statements is or are correct regarding river Saraswati? This was in news of late. The first, it originated from Kapal Tirth in the Himalayas in the west of Kailash. Second, it finds mentions as one of the main Rig-Vedic rivers in Rigved and also in later and post-Vedic texts. And third, it eventually flowed through Bangladesh after passing via the eastern Himalayas. So, what should be the correct statements here? Please choose your answers quickly. 1, 2, and 3, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, or just 1 and 2. So look, when you talk about the first statement, that certainly is true. That is from where the river is, originating, or it originated from in the Himalayas. That is the Kapal Tirth area, right? Then it also finds mention in the Rigved as one of the main Rigvedic rivers, also in post Vedic texts as well, later Vedic and post Vedic texts. So the first and the second statements are true, but the last statement is incorrect. This third statement is incorrect. It did not flow through Bangladesh, but yes, it flowed through Pakistan and the run of Kutch. So your answer for question number 2 will be D. That is 1 and 2 are correct, right? 1 and 2 are only correct. Third is incorrect. So answer goes D, and that is the run of Kutch, right, before it went into the Bay of Bengal. So here you can see this is the Saraswati river being depicted here. It passed through Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, Gujarat, and finally into the Arabian Sea through the run of Kutch, right? So that is where Himalayas it originated, and eventually crossing all these states it drained, right? So this is another map which is also depicting the same Saraswati river flow, right? So here you can see all the other sites as well. You can also see in this, you can also see Satluj, you can also see Ghaggar, you can also see Hakra, you can also see Yamuna, right, and the Nara river. So these are the maps concerned, right? So that brings us to the end of the session. I believe that you were able to learn something out of it, right? And that is why I would say that please hit that like button if that is the case. And on that count, stay safe, have a great weekend, revise the things whatever we have discussed, because revision, remember, is the key, right? So Jai Hind to all of you, stay safe, study well, and bye bye.